Okay, so I'm going to take you guys along this information of finding out the truth of who the eighth is and the answer of why this is so important. As I'm going through this, you will be getting the answers of the findings as I'm going through this. And along this, I'm going to take you along the journey of information as I come across it as we go along. So stay tuned and bear with me as I go through this information. I will edit this video and take out all the blank nonsense and shorten it up some for you. But this is very important because this is information that's been needed to be known, and to even have it come to light to even me and to understand this as I'm understanding it. So together we will learn and go through this. But this is the information for the facts of what they are. And it is dark, and to some people it'll be very disturbing. It probably won't be that pleasant to me, but all I can do is share every bit of it with you guys as I go. So let's go ahead and jump right in. We're going to go into the book of Revelations and to kind of explain a little bit about how I got the information that I have that I'm going through. I took the time, looked out the most common, wide use, oldest, and all these different types of Bible verses, and found all the different books of Revelations I could find, all the different translated, written ways that it is from the ways that everyone views and perceives it. I took 4 of these and copy and pasted verse by verse and put it all together, every chapter within the book of Revelations from the Holy Bible. A lot of other things too, but this is mainly just about the Revelations that I'm talking about right here. And then I took all this, color coordinated each different book, and made sure I found out which verses were there that weren't there in other books, found out the different ways it was worded in each one and how each one made a different view for the same information that was given. So each 4 of these in a way was telling the same story, but yet it was different because of the way it was worded. Not cool, but it is what it is. But to find information, you have to do research, and to do research, you have to look at all the different ways, and that's what I did. So then I have this little editing tool within here where I'm able to put in certain keywords, and then I can look through and find the keywords. So that helps bring up things that may only be mentioned once in one of the different 4 that wouldn't have been found if I was only looking at one of the other 3. So out of all 4, only one of them had the information that was a little bit more truthful, or by adding all 4 together, I was able to find the truth of what was actually kind of going on. Again, because things get lost in translation and in words, so I'm going to try to stop talking and let's jump straight into this about the answers of who the 8th is, because the 8th is of the 7th, so it's really important to understand within the book of Revelation. So let's jump in. So in the 17th chapter, verse 11, we're going to go ahead and read this because there's a way to find the answers, and I like to use this little process, and it's called FLASSA. And what it is FLASSA, 6 steps. F stands for find, L stands for look, A stands for ask, S stands for seek, S stands for see, A stands for answer. So with FLASSA, I'm able to go through and find the answer that I'm looking for. It's a process that there's something I want to find, and to get to the answer are these 6 steps. So to find, I must look, and if I'm looking, I must ask, and if I really want it, I'm going to seek it out, and then I will see it, and then I will have the answer. Doesn't mean that we're always going to like what we find, but it is what it is. So right here in this 17:11, the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7th, and goeth into perdition. And so here's the other way it's worded. the beast, which once was and now is not, is an eighth king. It comes from the seventh and is on its way to destruction. Here's the other way it's worded. For the beast that was and is not is an eighth, but it belongs to the seventh and goes to destruction. Then the last way I have here says, the beast that once was and now is not is an eighth king. He belongs to the seventh and is going into destruction. So right there, those four talk about the beast that was and is not. So when you want to consider that, something that was but yet is not is breaking down to something that is yet not. And if something is something but is not something, that makes it false. So right there, it is a false beast. That is important to understand at the same time of realizing that there's more to it, because if he was yet was not, again, means that it's technically not right. And if it's of destruction, is destruction good or bad? If it's of the one that goes into perdition, see, there's only one time was that worded in that way, which then gives questions to other things, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But the other three all say destruction, destruction, destruction. And all of these are saying that he is an eighth king and is of the seventh, which means that this gives you answers and insights to other things underneath. Nobody else was able to really get this because they didn't understand all the pieces. I get it because it's part of my life. So I am explaining it and learning it all at the same time, because that's the times we are in. So it's very important to understand that the eighth is of the seventh. And the seventh is important because the seventh is the seven spirits, the seven churches, the seven lights, that is the seven that is of one, which is of a, and it just continues. But again, I'm not trying to get too far into that because we're focusing on the eighth, which is of the seventh, so it is important. So throughout a lot of this, when we're going through and we're reading, it talks about, I am the one that is and yet is not. I am the one that liveth and was dead. I am the one that is yet is not. I am the one that was but was not. I am he that is all things. I am he that is first. I am he that is last. Which kind of makes sense, but I need to make sure of this. So the one wording, so I'm going to have to relook for this word here, perdition, because this was only mentioned once, and the other three mentioned destruction. So this word is very important because it talks about the one that comes and then goes into perdition for a little while. So yes, this is the eighth. And the eighth is of the seventh, because the eighth belongs to the seventh, because the eighth is the child. The child is the one that has the number that is the name, just part of the time. It's easy to get lost. This is why it wasn't easy for me to wrap my head around everything when I started. So this is an eighth, but belongs to seventh. So he that was, is not, and is the eighth. So the one that was not, and is not is the eighth. Very important. So then on to 12. 12 says, and the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which receive no kingdom yet, but receives power as kings 1 hour with the beast. So there's 10 total. And these 10 are horns. So these horns are important if you kind of understand. And again, we're going to explain what the 10 horns are because each one has questions that leads to answers when you look elsewhere, then it puts it together. So the 10 horns. So we're going to go on down to the second one. The 10 horns saw are 10 kings who have not yet begun to rule, but they receive power as kings for 1 hour along with the beast. And, okay, this is the third one. And 10 horns, yet you saw are 10 kings who have not yet received a kingdom, but they are to receive authority as kings for 1 hour together with the beast. The fourth one. The 10 horns you saw are 10 kings who have yet to receive a kingdom, but who are for 1 hour will receive authority as kings alongside the beast. So, right here, it really kind of straight up tells you that they're going to be allowed to receive authority for 1 hour with the beast. And the beast is 8. 8 out of 10. And so the 7th, me, the 8th, my child, the beast, who is of me, is the 8th. And yet to come, 9 and 10, which will put this all together. So then the question is who are the other two? Well, from my understanding, the other two are the 2 false prophets. And I am only one person, so there. So who is 9 and 10? Because when they get put together. But then the question also is now who are the 5? Who is 6? Which are which? And the answers of all of that is in here. And it's just putting it together to get the full picture of everything. There's something right there. Okay, I get it. Thank you. That's why they quieted me for a moment there. Because I had to figure that out, the one thing I was missing out of 12 here. Okay, so where it goes on to say, because again, this is where it's important. So the one who has not yet began to rule. And it also says down here, because it talks about they haven't received their kingdom yet, but the one right there, right where it says, not yet began to rule, that is important because he is the one who has power to rule all nations with a rod of iron. So that makes sense when you understand the male child to rule all nations with a rod of iron.